I'm Nabi Monica Fu. I'm S3 from Nalangeses.
For instance, date 94, 2. Only that. Some of you, when you write, you put the smaller points, but they are not. Where have you, ma'am? Where's the first one? Can you count? Excuse me, what have I said?
I am Matthias, student of Namsini Secondary School from Powell. My dream is to become an engineer. That's my Everest.
Everyone has their own summit. This is Rob Gauntlet, climbing his first Himalayan peak, Ama Dablam. When Rob and I first decided to try and climb Everest, a lot of people just didn't believe that we were actually going to do it. You know, we're 16 years old, we come home and, you know, hi mum, hi dad, we're going to climb Everest in a couple of years' time. You know, it's very much, okay, right, well, dinner's in 5 minutes. No one really believed us or listened to us.
The more he trained, he did loads and loads of training of different mountains, Spantic, Ama Dablam. I think people started taking Rob and James seriously.
The dream a very long way away. The fact that we were doing it together, we were able to bounce off each other, and we would say to each other, oh, come on, don't listen to them. You know, we're going to prove them wrong. Let's show them that we can do this. We began our adventures in our school cycling club. Straight away, we were hooked. We ran, hiked, cycled and climbed whenever we could. We tripped, fell, crashed and failed, but each time, with the support of each other, our teachers and friends, we got back up. We dreamed of climbing mountains, of Everest, and each year, step by step, we gained skills and confidence. The journey took 3 years, but before we knew it, we stood at Everest Base Camp, beneath the world's highest summit.
Okay, so Rob, why are you here on Everest?
Well, we're here at Everest Base Camp because we've been training for 3 years and we're hoping to become the youngest Brits to climb Everest.
James, what's it like out here?
I remember on our summit bid, we'd literally just left base camp on our way to advanced base camp, and it was a pretty long way on the north side, about 20 kilometers or so. And you're carrying a very heavy pack with all your stuff in to make your way up the mountain. And I was really struggling. I had this horrible cough. The pack was weighing a lot, and I was just thinking to myself, you know, if I can't even get to advanced base camp, how am I going to get to the summit? And after a while, I sat down, or I told Rob I had to stop. And I sat down and I started crying, and I just thought, this is futile, you know, this is useless. And I just felt so lucky to have Rob there beside me, and he was able to say, look, James, let's just take this one day at a time. Today's goal is just to get to advanced base camp. Don't think about the summit now. And he whipped out one of his chocolate bar rations and gave that to me. And you know, that provided, I guess, a little bit of energy that I needed. And he just, I guess, his pep talk about just taking it one day at a time was really important. And it kind of reset my focus and my mind. And I got to advanced base camp that night with a little bit of a struggle. But then the next day I felt much better. And then, you know, as we know, we made it to the summit. And it was just so good to have my best friend there to be able to cheer me on. I obviously looked around and was just dumbfounded by the view around me and the knowledge that I'd done it. being there with Rob and feeling that we'd achieved this dream that we'd set out on 3 years earlier was obviously a huge feeling of achievement. I'm not sure we had the cognitive function in that thin air to actually take it in properly. We just knew, right, we've got to take some photos, and we had a satellite phone, and so it was like, well, we need to call home to our friends and family.
When Rob and James summited Everest, we were all in Sussex. We sort of knew about the time that they were due to summit, and we'd all collected in Rob's parents' living room. And we were in touch by satellite phone. I remember actually for that month, I ended up with an £800 phone bill because of all the calls to Everest. And it was just a really magical moment. We got a phone call from Rob on the summit, and it was quite a short phone call. But you know, there was a massive cheer went up in the room.
People have died trying to reach its summit, a small patch of ice and snow 29,000 feet up. But the challenge of Everest was one two ordinary teenagers thought they could meet. Now, at the age of just 19, the two best friends have become the youngest Britons ever to conquer the world's tallest mountain.
When Rob and I finished climbing Everest, instead of feeling a sense of achievement, we both felt, I guess, a sense of loss. This dream that we'd had for 3 years, the only thing we'd focused on, had suddenly disappeared. And we felt like we needed to find a new challenge, something new to set our sights on and to focus us and to give us, you know, the next big dream.
I see, to coincide with the 10 years.
Well, it's not to coincide with it, but it might be that by the time we submit and then by the time it actually would be shown at a film festival, that it would be 2019.
I think they wanted to see what the boys were going to do next, the Everest boys, you know, where can we take it, what can they do next? And it's kind of a double-edged sword, because when you're 19 and you've reached the roof of the world and people are saying to you, what are you going to do next? I mean, it's quite a lot of pressure for you to be under. So the 180 Degrees expedition, it was well, essentially the boys were going to go from the geomagnetic North Pole to the geomagnetic South Pole using only human and natural power.
They'll start at the geomagnetic North Pole and haul their sleds to Disco Bay in Greenland. There they'll pick up a yacht sailing to New York. Then it's bikes south to Panama City, where the roads run out, and they have to resort to sail again, this time to Ecuador. From there, bikes to the southern port of Punta Arenas, where they embark for the last leg by yacht to the geomagnetic South Pole, just off the Antarctic coast. In all, 11 months and 22,000 miles plus.
180 Degrees was a huge expedition. We knew we'd be journeying for about a year on our way from pole to pole. There was a lot to prepare, a lot to pack, both for the Arctic and all the other environments we'd find along the way.
Well, coming from the flight over to Karnak, where we are here, we've actually seen from the plane that the sea ice is breaking up at an amazing rate.
Here in Greenland, and we decided that instead of getting a helicopter to the North Pole, which is environmentally damaging, we thought we'd go for dogs, and so
We've just arrived at the geomagnetic pole now, and we've spent about 8 days dog sledding all the way here, and it's just such a relief to be here.
finally we're going to get a chance to get started on this expedition. It seemed like it was never going to happen, and we've had to have a mini expedition in itself just to get here. It's been pretty exciting, but I just can't wait to get my teeth into the 180 Degrees challenge.
So from here we've got 22,000 miles to travel all the way to the other side of the world, and we'll be travelling through 14 different countries.
The first stage of the expedition was to ski across the sea ice down the coast of Greenland. In 2007, the Arctic experienced the smallest summer sea ice extent on record to that point. From very early on, we were aware that the sea ice was melting unusually fast, making difficult and dangerous conditions. we were forced to change our plans and haul our 100-kilogram sleds up rocky slopes and over glaciated peninsulas. Strong winds, temperatures as low as minus 40 degrees centigrade, and crevasses were a constant danger. The Pole to Pole expedition was obviously a long expedition, and there were lots of dangers that would potentially face us along the way. It was quite a warm day in the Arctic, maybe minus 10, and so Rob had taken off his big, thick outer gloves and just put them on the sled, the dog sled beside him. And as he was going along, one of them fell off the sled, and so he stopped the dog sled and went back to pick up his glove. But as he was bending down to pick it up, the ice cracked beneath his feet. He knocked his head on the way in, and he was in this water. And I saw all this happen from a few hundred meters away. I finally got back to him after what must have been 4 or 5 minutes. And, you know, I tried to speak to him, but, there was no response. He was starting to go a bit blue.
Rob just fell through the ice about an hour ago, and he was in there for a few minutes, and he went unconscious. And we dragged him out. He was shivering, and it just couldn't get a response out of him. And very, very worried. We had to rip all his clothes off and pull him into a tent, and then I just quickly rang a helicopter to get us out of here. He's coming in and out of consciousness, and I don't know what to do. This is awful, but I really hope that he's okay. Once we ripped all his clothes off, we got him in here in a sleeping bag, and he's been shivering like anything. And I think now, after he regained consciousness, he's just fallen asleep. But I'm very worried about him. He's blue in the face, and it's not good.
Yesterday I felt absolutely terrible. Splitting headache because I think I hit my head as well. But at the moment I'm just resting. I've got a pretty bad headache still. I'm hoping I'm going to feel better by the end of today really. It's been pretty traumatic, and I'm just looking forward to getting on with the rest of the expedition now.
Mike Simpkin was one of the few people who had supported and believed in us from the beginning. On Rob's story, which can act as basically the narrative.
During the course of the expedition, the adventure itself, of course, Rob's accident relatively early on was a real blow to everybody. But even then, once we knew that he was safe, nobody had any doubt that they would be back up on their feet and that the expedition would continue. So despite that real big setback, I never had any doubt, and neither did anybody else in the support team have any doubt that they would achieve what they wanted to achieve.
Did you think during their trip on 180, did you think, good effort boys, time to come home? Did you think it was...
Some people had done parts of this journey, and those people had warned them, don't do it. I can remember telephone calls and talking to these explorers, and they said, look, you've got to persuade these guys, this is dangerous, they should not do what they're going to do. But there was never any doubt in my mind, despite those wise words, that Rob and James knew what they were going to do and that they would achieve it.
A few days after his recovery, Rob was released from a small hospital in Upernavik, a town in northwest Greenland. With renewed determination, we shaved our heads in the hope of the warmer climes ahead.
We've seen an amazing part of the Arctic environment. We've travelled across thinning sea ice, across retreating glaciers because of climate change. And it's made the expedition so far more dangerous for us. But for the Inuit people that live here, it's making a serious impact on their permanent lives. And there's going to be real problems here now and in the future.
I've actually fallen through the sea ice, and the sea ice melting is a direct result from the amount of carbon dioxide which is being released into the atmosphere. We can actually see the boat now. It's just come around the headland and it's very exciting. We've spent such a long time in Greenland, and to actually see the boat is really quite amazing. I'm so excited to get on board and just to see it. I'm going to give it a radio call now. Ice Maiden, this is Rob and James. Do you read, over?
At the beginning of June 2007, we began the month-long sailing leg from Greenland to New York.
We're stuck in a massive storm in the Davis Strait off western Greenland.
We were hit by bad weather early on, and the voyage was complicated by the huge number of icebergs found in this narrow stretch of water.
The storm has just blown in, and we've been having gusts of wind up to 47 knots overnight. And the sea is very confused at the moment, so it's making the sailing very difficult.
It's 3 o'clock in the morning, and just finished my watch. But now it's time to go and wake Rob up, which is, you feel so guilty trying to wake someone up after you know they've only been asleep for an hour, but I need my sleep, so here goes. Rob, mate, it's time to wake up. Rob, it's 10 minutes until your shift, okay?
How many minutes?
10. Do you want tea or coffee?
Tea.
Okay, cool. Rob? Rob?
Rob. Fuck off. We've just come into the Labrador Current, and it's really, really chocker with ice at the moment. So completely exhausted, checking out the radar all the time, and just negotiating in and out of icebergs. If we take on an iceberg which we don't spot or something, it can make a hole in the bottom of the hull and stuff.
After 4 weeks at sea, the conditions finally subsided as we sailed alongside Long Island and past the Statue of Liberty into New York.
No, it's pretty awesome at the moment. It's stunning weather. We're just on our way up the entrance, and we're looking out onto the Statue of Liberty, looking right onto Manhattan on the financial district. And this is the moment we've been waiting for a long, long time. It feels pretty amazing to be here. It is absolutely baking. We've got just a cycling top on, and we've had to drink so much water because at the moment we're probably losing about 1.5 litres, 2 litres an hour. So dehydration's a real issue. It's pretty amazing, the skyline behind us, and we're just so excited about getting further south. And from here we're heading down to Washington DC, where we'll hopefully be in about a few days' time.
Coming off the back of a month of cold water sailing, the first few days of cycling beneath the North American summer sun were brutal. Progress was initially slow, in temperatures reaching up to 48 degrees centigrade, but our legs gradually strengthened, and soon we crossed the border into Mexico and Central America. We were now in the tropics, and the rainy season greeted us with heavy storms that left the roads flowing like rivers.
So far we've travelled from the North Pole here to Panama. We've travelled 8,000 kilometres on our bicycles, it's New York.
Sailing on the trade winds across warm equatorial waters provided a short respite from the battle between our thighs and thousands of miles of tarmac.
It's so weird. We just had this boat just come up to us. I mean, flashing a light and come very, very close to the boat. It'd been following us for like 5 minutes. Then it switched its light off, and it's just vanished. So we're pretty concerned. There's a lot of instances of piracy out here, and you've got to be extremely cautious of anyone trying to get on the boat or trying to be too friendly. And, there's a few fishermen around. We can see another 2 lights in front on the horizon, but we've just got to be very, very careful and keep our wits about us. Next to get in the boat.
The long road down South America began on the coast of Ecuador. Short of support crew, we unexpectedly made a new friend while passing a famous surfing spot in northern Peru.
How's it driving here in Peru?
Pretty good. Towns are crazy. There's no rules. But the last time I drove was a few months ago in Europe. But I'm learning fast.
Like that while he's there, just literally on the screen as though had a massive.
I went to South America because I had a gap year from teaching, and I was seeking a bit of adventure. So I travelled in Brazil for a month, and Chile for a month, and then Peru for a month before I bumped into you and Rob. The day I met Rob and James in a hostel in the north of Peru, I remember noticing some British people, which was quite unusual. It's quite a remote part of Peru. And I just wondered why they were on their laptops and they all seemed busy. And when I asked them what they were doing, they explained they're going from pole to pole using only natural and human power. So I was really intrigued to find out more. But it was only later that evening that Rob said, we're looking for someone to help drive our support vehicle. And how would you feel about helping us for a few weeks?
It's been a pretty hot and hilly start to the day. We have a new team member, John, who is taking on the driving position, which is quite an amazing, spontaneous decision.
One particular incident that was really unfortunate for Rob, he was cycling along at great speed, probably about 30 miles an hour, and unfortunately he hit a broom handle that was lying in the road, and unfortunately he went over his handlebars, he landed on his head, cut his arms.
It's all completely peeled.
James and I were cycling very fast, and there was this broom handle and this broom which were in the middle of the road. I didn't see it, I came off, and we were doing about 30 miles an hour, so a bit of a nightmare scenario. Managed to be bandaged up. I'm not really hurt in any way particularly, just got a few cuts and bruises. And another 35k or something until we get into town, so very, very lucky really.
Both Rob and James faced some really tough challenges during the cycling leg. One thing that was really hard was just the heat. Sometimes it was 90 degrees plus, and they rode over huge mountains. I remember several days where we had huge sandstorms, so it was okay for me behind the wheels of the Land Rover, but the guys were being whipped by the sand for hours. Which I think is a skill both Rob and James had, was just take each day as it comes. don't necessarily think of the big picture all the time, but just get through the difficult times step by step, and you get there at the end of the day. But that was a real comfort. You know, everyone was struggling, but just to be reminded, take it day by day, and you'll get through it.
The final leg of the expedition involved sailing from Punta Arenas at the southern tip of South America, across the Southern Ocean to the magnetic South Pole. This stretch of ocean is notorious for its ferocious winds and mountainous waves, as storms circle the planet unimpeded.
The whole boat has been turned completely upside down from a knockdown. So John, can you just show us your war wound on your head? It looks like a golf ball.
Not the one on my bum.
No, not on your head.
I can't really see it.
Yeah, you can.
Come here, Johnny. Look at that. That is nasty. Look, it's all bruised under the ear. He's got a big graze on top. It's painful. That's what Dr. James says.
That was that metal bar.
You're just too keen to get into bed with me.
When Johnny realised his wings didn't work.
My memory was I was asleep in bed and the boat heeled over, and I woke up a little bit, but I'd become used to the boat heeling over. But then it really heeled over more than I had ever experienced before. And then all I remember then was I was in midair and I was floating, and then I hit my head, and then I was really confused because I was soaking wet and it was pitch black. And I actually had Rob right next to me. So I was like shaking hands with Rob, like, we've survived this. But it was a frightening experience. The boat had been pushed 90 degrees down into the water, and I'd been thrown out of my bed onto the other side of the yacht.
So you fell into bed with Rob. Has that happened?
It's extremely cold at the moment. It's about -10, something like that. There's a lot of ice on the deck, and we're only 3 or 4 miles away at the moment from the South Magnetic Pole. How are you feeling, Jimbo?
An exciting moment for us all.
Why is it exciting?
Not only is it mingingly horrible outside, but we're at the South Magnetic Pole, which is good in all but the weather. It's just amazing to be here after so long. It's been 12 and a half or almost 13 months, and finally we're here.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. We're at the South Magnetic Pole! This is it, guys. Charlie's excited. Fucking yeah! Right, come on, Jack.
Still in the middle of the ocean and thousands of miles from civilization, we turned north for the first time in a year and sailed to our finish line in Sydney, Australia.
That's so peculiar. Firstly, just like whole loads of people with fog-ons and flags and stuff, and then just as if a worm coming out of the woodwork, my dad starts waving. This is just amazing. I just didn't think there was any chance that he'd come out.
So, how do you feel now?
Quite relieved.
Like you married for you?
It's quite cold out there. My arms are aching from waving at them.
Decided we would go to Australia and meet the boat and meet the boys. And it was going to be their 21st birthday. Well, it was actually Rob's 21st birthday on the day after they landed. And we wanted to keep a secret, even though we were in Australia. He rang us a few times, asking us this and that and the other. And we had to pretend we were at home. And the only way, really, that we pretend that we're home is that the dog's with us. So we say, "Get down, dog! Come on, get down!" It's the only way to sort of... We obviously wouldn't take a dog on holiday with us to Australia. So that's what we did. Anyhow, so on the morning of their arrival, it was very exciting. Many people had gathered together, and we got a boat out into Sydney Harbour and went to the entrance of the harbour and watched them arrive.
Got an impossible valve on it. I'm justified.
Oh wow!
It's kind of there.
You alright?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Oliver. Happy birthday to you.
Too much of this.
Hold hands and then speak for each other.
Yeah.
So it's like that, was it?
I never expected it to be anything like the reception we had yesterday, and to have such a close family and friends here today. It's just been amazing. Without slurring in my intoxicated state anymore. Thank you very, very much, and a very happy birthday to James Hooper, a very best friend.
Yay!
I'd like to think that the experiences that James and I have had will have like a positive impact on our lives and what we can bring to other people. I'm very excited about doing talks to schools. We're going to have to try and do some talks to businesses as well to try and raise some of the money we need to pay off the debts we've got ourselves into. But yeah, I think the exhibitions and the things that we've seen and done and met will have a really positive impact on what we can bring to other people, and hopefully try and inspire other people to believe in themselves. You know, we're just two normal guys, and that's our key message really. You know, we're not really anything special at all, but we've just been lucky enough to organise a really, you know, extraordinary journey which we've been so lucky to be on and complete.
I think when Rob came back from 180 degrees, it wasn't the same as when he came back from Everest. With Everest, he came back with a real fire in his belly, a real determination and a real kind of drive to want to do something else. It's almost like he came back from 180 degrees slightly demotivated in the sense of, you know, with Everest it was kind of what's next, what's next. With 180, where do you go? Do you go to space? Where do you go? So it was almost like it wasn't like he was lost, but it was kind of like the euphoria had gone, and so he started going on like little holidays and trips to kind of just satisfy that craving that he had for the outdoors and for adventure. And I definitely did see a kind of change in him.
To be honest, we were a bit depressed. We were struggling. We'd been on this massive trip around the world, and we'd just returned to, you know, the mundanity of real life, and we were really struggling. And we needed a chance, an excuse to just get away, forget about stuff, get back to the mountains, enjoy ourselves. And so we decided to go to the Alps for a week.
We'd split off into pairs, and Rob and James Atkinson were slightly more experienced climbers, so they'd chosen a slightly more difficult route. And James Hooper and myself had looked at the weather and were a bit more nervous and a bit less experienced, so we'd chosen an easier route. And we had a beautiful evening. And then the next morning, as we discussed, they got up earlier to try and climb the Govasuti Couloir. And we actually, as we were off to do our own route, we saw them on the way up. We completed what we were trying to do in the day. I think we'd actually turned back a bit because we were worried about the weather closing in. We took a lift down on the understanding we'd already arranged to meet Rob and James after they'd finished their climb. And then they never came down on the last lift when they were planned to. And I think we just got increasingly worried and called Mountain Rescue to just see if anyone had been, discovered or to understand what happened.
We headed over to the mountain police in Chamonix, and we walked in and said, "Hi, we've got a couple of friends that are up on the mountain, and we haven't heard from them or seen them, so we just wanted to come in and just make a report, just so that people are aware, that they might be up there or whatever." And then a few minutes later, one of the policemen came in and he said, "I'm really sorry, guys, but this morning we found a couple of bodies up on the glacier. We think they may well be your friends." And that was just the most shocking moment in my life. The bottom dropped out of my stomach. I felt utterly lost. Richard, our other good friend, was there next to me, and we were just in disbelief. We left the police with our details and then just went out onto the streets of Chamonix and just cried, literally just sobbed. No idea what to do. No idea, about the future or how we would get home or even how we'd have dinner. I mean, the world went black. It was, the worst moment in my life, really.
I had hitchhiked to Morocco with my climbing partner and 2 other friends, and we were in the Atlas Mountains in the Todra Gorge, and we arrived about the 8th of January, so about the day before Rob's accident. And then suddenly I got all the other missed calls through, and I got a missed call from my dad, so I called him back, and he told me the news. I think in his actual words, he said, "Rob and James have fallen about 600 meters." And at that time, my response could only be, "Oh, how are they?" I couldn't imagine that my brother could have died. It didn't cross my mind. But if you imagine what 600 meters look like, it's definitely not possible to have survived that. I think my dad found it very difficult to say the words, "He's dead." But when he did, I collapsed. It wasn't that my muscles didn't have the energy. It's just I didn't want to stand. It just, nothing mattered. I just fell to the floor. It was just the bottom fell out of the world. It was a terrible, terrible feeling.
What do you think it means to Tim?
I don't know what it means to Tim. It means a lot to Tim, but I think I don't know. I can't answer that one. Don't want to answer that one. Don't think. Dad might try.
Pass.
No, it's a hard one. That I don't. It's too personal because I think, yeah, you were very, very close to Rob. You were like his. Well, you were like his.
Like his brother.
You were like an extra limb on him. You used to just be stuck together. Everything Rob did, Tim did. Everything Rob did, you would follow. You were like a little puppy. You were everywhere. Everywhere Rob went, you went. I mean, his friends were your friends. That being the biggest thing, really. Wherever Rob went, he had his shadow. And that must have been very hard for you. So, yeah.
He was actually my best friend for my entire life. Well, obviously until he passed away when I was 19.
Hi Tim, just want to wish you a really, really happy 18th birthday. I'm so sorry I can't be there today. We're in Ecuador and it just seems a very, very long time ago since we last saw you in Austin, Texas. Just have a really happy day and I'm thinking of you and really want you to know that if I could be there with you today, I really would be.
When I first put the sentence together, my brother's funeral, it kind of shook me to the core. Like those words rattling around my head were really unbelievable. It didn't make sense. It didn't make sense at all. But actually, on the day of his funeral, there was something quite nice. I know, obviously, it was terrible and tragic, but just having so many people there was something really quite pleasant around something really quite horrible. Like, genuinely, do I regret him climbing Everest? That's a no. Do I regret him doing 180 degrees? No. Do I regret climbing around France with him? Of course not. I mean, obviously, the happy memories I've got with him, I don't regret for an instant. And do you know what? I wouldn't swap them for anything in the world. But do I regret him climbing Mont Blanc? I think regret's the wrong idea. Yes, you know, if I had the power to go back in time saying, oh, let's leave this one out today, Rob, then of course I would.
I think he would have been sorry, actually. I think Rob would have been sorry. And because, yes, he loved the outdoors, yes, he loved adventure, but actually he loved his family, he loved his friends, he loved me. So actually I think Rob would have been sorry that he'd let it happen because he promised it wouldn't.
Elephant juice.
오늘 파이팅! 파이팅!
정말 중요한 거 하나 있습니다. 그게 뭐냐면은 되게 유명한 우리 그 모험 가이드와 사이클리스트가 한 말이 있었던 것 같아요. 뭐냐면은 모험은 집에 가서 샤워를 하기 전까지 끝난 게 아니다라는 말이에요. 예. 굉장히 멋진 말이죠.
a couple of people, like I went round and checked everyone's brakes last night and I tightened up some people's brakes, so just check before you go down.
라이더 리더이자 그 메커닉인 이 씨가 그 브레이크를 몇 개를 손봤대요. 그래서
After Rob's funeral, I think we were all obviously very miserable, bit lost, didn't really know, what we were doing, why we were doing it. And somewhere along the line, we decided that what we'd always enjoyed was cycling. And that's what Rob had always enjoyed and James had always enjoyed. So let's do a cycle trip.
Thank you. Or if they're thinking about getting something healthy.
How you doing?
When I lost Rob, I was quite lost in myself. I dropped out of Manchester University. But what's given me quite a lot of focus is the 1 Mile Closer project. So a close group of friends, initially mainly Richard and James Hooper, came together and we talked to each other and we said, what can we do to carry on his message? What can we do to move on from this tragic event? And eventually we sort of came up with this idea of 1 Mile Closer. So
why we do 1 Mile Closer down into 3 key aims. I think the first one is to raise money for Nalango School in Uganda, something that I feel extremely passionate about, and what a fantastic opportunity that gives those children in that area to have the opportunity of schooling and have the opportunity of education. The second one is the sense of challenge. One thing that everything Rob did was a challenge, and this 1 Mile Closer gives us ordinary people who have day jobs the opportunity in our summer holidays to achieve something. And when you tell people at your work what you're doing, not many people get to do things that we've done, whether that's cycling home from Prague, Provence. Normal people just don't do that with their time. So it gives people that opportunity. And the final one is bringing everyone together to remember Rob and keep his memory going. Whatever we're doing 1 Mile Closer, Rob's memory will never die. And we will always be doing something that, first and foremost, he would have done. So what's great is that if Rob was still alive, he would be on those trips, and he would be at the front group, and he would be enjoying every day like we do.
I think being connected in this way, there's been a continuous narrative of 1 Mile Closer that does connect even the new people to my brother. Everyone who goes on 1 Mile Closer learns about the story of Rob and his achievements, and it's a foot in the door. Some of them buy their bike just for the challenge and then carry on cycling year after year after year. They go on their own adventures. That's just incredible. It's literally awesome to see how the story of Rob has changed their lives.
You know, in many ways I don't feel like I've lost him. I feel that he's still alive because of 1 Mile Closer, because of the way that, you know, people get excited when they hear his story. People, they do these challenges. They challenge themselves. They go on an adventure because of his inspiration. And that's been massively comforting and makes me feel that he's still having an impact on the world.
So my dad is in his mid-60s. He's had heart surgery over a decade ago, but he would never have taken up cycling had it not been for 1 Mile Closer. I can't imagine that he would be doing all these miles across Europe had it not been for 1 Mile Closer. I talked about how it seems incredible for me to connect these places on the map, but for my dad, he's not a super athlete. I think he's one of the icons of 1 Mile Closer. To keep the pedals turning, it's incredible where he finds the energy to keep going, day after day after day, and he's never complained. He looks so overjoyed to be doing it. He looks exhausted, but it seems to be the best thing in his life to be part of such an incredible group. To a sketch on Radio 4. It was more of a drama, but it was by a comedian.
We're going up some of the most difficult hills. I sort of psychologically feel Rob pushing me up those hills. I think, go on, Dad, you can do it. And yeah, it sort of does focus my memory on what had happened, and I've got to do it. And I just love it when I get to the end.
The 1 Mile Closer trip that we had in Korea, Sea to Sky in 2015, when we had a very mixed group of about 40 riders. And in fact, many of those riders, in conversation I learned they hadn't really been outside Seoul. They didn't know much about what the Korean countryside has to offer, which is a lot. And we rode up some mountains in Taebaek, and there was one big climb in particular that was a real challenge. And everyone rode up at their own pace, and everyone waited at the top and made a tunnel for everyone else coming through. And for that small moment, we were all professional athletes. You know, it was an amazing moment and an amazing show of support for everyone who was undertaking that personal challenge. And it was a challenge and an adventure to all of us in different ways. I think at the time there was nothing that I had encountered in life that was ever as hard as my best friend's dying in a climbing accident, and that makes it's both incredibly hard, but at the same time it makes all those other challenges in life insignificant. So it was both incredibly hard but incredibly empowering at the same time, and that to me is Rob's gift. It's that ability to find strength where you didn't think you had it otherwise.
People always ask me, well, why do you do so much cycling? How did you get into cycling? What's your inspiration? Why do you do it? And well, it comes back to Rob, because that was the catalyst for me. If the accident hadn't have happened, I probably wouldn't be cycling. It's addictive. I had a point to prove. I had a memory to uphold. I've got a school in Uganda that's got children that need educating. There's so many reasons why I ride my bike, and it's all thanks to Rob.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to say thank you very much for having me this week. It's been absolutely wonderful to meet you all and have such a brilliant week cycling with you. Sort of echoing what Richard says, I hope you take away the love of cycling that 1 Mile Closer has instilled in me. I look back on my very first 1 Mile Closer adventure with such fond memories, and I hope that is exactly the same for all of you as well.
Sean never met Rob personally. He was inspired to join the second 1 Mile Closer ride in 2012, and since then he hasn't missed a pedal stroke, bringing 1 Mile Closer to Korea and encouraging a whole new generation of adventurers.
개인적으로 항상 OMC마다 하는 얘기예요. 제가 6개월 전부터 사실 준비를 하면서 일도 좀 많이 못하고 그래서 진짜 농담 삼아 이제 저희 같이 팀원들이 회사 이제 쫓아낸다 그런 농담도 하고 그럴 정도로 힘내려 못했는데 어쨌든 저는 이걸 하는 게 너무 행복했고 여러분 같이 진짜 에너지 넘치는 친구들 만나서 너무 행복했습니다. 그리고 저를 이 멋진 여정에 초대해준 진짜 제임스한테 저는 항상 고마워가지고 제임스한테 박수 한 번만 부탁드릴게요.
자리거든요.
2 mile closer 할 거야.
1 mile closer.
뭐야? 근데 팀과 제임스를 보면서 롭을 상상하면서 이 친구 때문에 우리가 모험을 시작하고 기부를 시작하고 학교를 짓기 시작하고 롭이라는 친구로 인해서 우리가 한 번도 만나지 않을 친구들이었지만 이렇게 지금 만나서 정말로 재밌는 모험을 하고 같이 사이클을 타게 된 계기를 만들어줬고 정말 이렇게 기부 활동을 열심히 해볼 수 있는 기회를 또 준 친구이고 그 다음에 마지막으로 롭을 통해서 우리가 일상생활에서 하기 힘든 그런 큰 모험을 하게 해준 친구.
For me, 1 mile closer, getting on that bike every couple of years and doing 1,000 miles with the close-knit group of friends who we do it with. It helps me enormously come to terms with losing Rob, and it has helped me mentally and physically to get through life with the loss of Rob. But I don't think I could have done it without it.
Everest is an amazingly big mountain. It's at 8,850 metres high. The summit of Everest is 1/3 of the oxygen that there is in this hall today.
And we were rescued from the sea ice. It was from the North Pole to the South Pole.
We're sponsored kind of by Adidas in the UK. And
Rob decided to go and give talks to schools and try and inspire some of the youngsters with all of his travels and what he'd learnt, and he thoroughly enjoyed doing that, didn't he?
Yes.
It was very clear that Rob wanted to share with others the perhaps satisfaction that he had achieved himself, and to demonstrate to others, look, I'm just an ordinary guy, really, but look what I achieved. And I think he wanted to share that with a lot of people.
I know that when he finished his expeditions, whether that was Everest or whether that was 180, he spent a lot of time going through to and doing talks in lots and lots of different schools. And the people that he targeted there were young people who, at a very fragile stage of their lives, were all looking about what they could do with their lives. Listening to Rob and listening to the experiences that he's had, he told them that anything they wanted to put their mind to, they could achieve. And I think that's such a key message that he's left behind.
Brilliant to see you all. Really, really lovely to meet you.
You are all aware that we generate all these construction projects and everything donated cut us of the funds from 1 mile closer. So they are part of the team. James and other colleagues, they mobilize friends, organize the trip, and raise the funds for us. As administration, we are committed to keeping Robo's mission of reaching for the sun. It is a struggle, but like Rob said, you put one step ahead of the other and you get moving. We shall try our best to keep moving until we get for the sun.
So the classrooms were here beneath these trees. So this was where the school started.
Who was the first teacher? Was that Paul?
Starting in 2007, when the school started, the structures were not there. We were about 12 teachers with 2 students and a mango tree with a chalkboard, a movable chalkboard, and we were teaching all the subjects. We could wait in turns to go and attend to our students. Our lessons were determined by the weather of the day. If it rained, then lessons would be suspended until the next day. If it was so hot, then we would have to pause until we get enough shade to operate our classes. But with the first project, especially the construction of the latrine, which was the very, very first project, life changed. As I talk now, 2017, we have 820 students. Now the challenge is to try and stop more children coming in the school rather than to attract more children coming in the school. It's a big challenge, but as teachers, we are always motivated.
This place here, before the coming of Nalango Secondary, had no school. And the children here and the surrounding areas were moving very long distances to go. In Uganda, lessons begin at exactly 8 or slightly before. But you can imagine somebody walking for over 10 kilometers to go to school. And at the end of the day in the evening, the child had to move back to home. Setting up Nalango Secondary School, it was an answer to the calls from different parents, calls from the different children who were moving from place to place looking for education. They say, they say, their answer of Nalango Secondary School is giving them the quality that they expected. So being here, one is answering the tears of the community, the tears of the children, the cry, the outcry of the people. 2, we feel it is our responsibility to uplift the level of education in Uganda. We need to reduce the level of illiteracy in Uganda.
Who won?
I think it was the second day we were here. I was outside and there was a group of pupils playing football, and I joined in and I played football and I played with them for maybe a couple of hours. And then the sun set and they picked up the ball and they went back to the dormitory. And it just felt like such deja vu of the experience that Rob and I had at school, and that just makes me so proud to feel that the education that these pupils are receiving here is of a quality that it really reminds me of the fantastic education that I received. And if there's anything that I have been proud of in my life, anything that I've been proud of that as a group of Rob's friends and family that we have achieved.
리차드를 통해서 사진도 많이 보게 되고 상상을 하고 있었는데 그때까지는 사실 그렇게 잘 와닿지 않았던 것 같아요. 이 프로젝트 자체가. 그리고 우리가 하고 있는 일들이 정말로 어떻게 이곳에서 돈이 쓰여지고 있고 학생들의 그런 교육의 기회를 더 얻게 되는지를 잘 몰랐었는데 막상 날랑고를 와서 이 많은 학생들 그리고 교장 선생님인 폴 그리고 여러 스태프들 선생님들을 보게 되니까 실제로 내가 하고 있는 게 어떤 거구나를 정확히 알게 됐고, 그리고 이것을 통해서 굉장히 매일매일이 지금 굉장히 감동적이고 감정이 북받치고, 예, 제가 하고 있는 프로젝트에 대해서 더 자부심이 생기고 있습니다.
Lots of people die in tragic accidents. It's an unfortunate fact of life that when people go on adventures, when people do risky things, people do occasionally suffer the consequences. They take the brunt of their risks. They die. I think what's been so special about Rob's legacy and the way that we remember him has been the way that Rob's family and friends, the way that the community of 1 Mile Closer has come together, and they've been determined to make sure that life grows in Rob's place, that Rob continues to have an impact on the world, that his values are continued to be shared. And up until now, we felt like the way that 1 Mile Closer remembers Rob was special. We thought that we were the driving force behind his legacy. What I've realized this week is that we are only a small part of that. That Rob's legacy has now gone beyond us, that the impact he has on the world is now out of our hands, that there are other people who are taking it forward. And I think that that is profoundly special.
What was your favourite thing about having us here? Just looking around me today, it's beyond words. It's so overwhelming for me. And if Rob could ever have imagined seeing this much impact, he'd be brought to tears. I've seen that before. I've seen him cry, and he's saying he cried on very, very rare occasions. And I would be certain that if he could see his legacy now, he would be overwhelmed, and he would definitely cry. Yeah. I am absolutely certain that he would love to not only visit here, I think we'd struggle to bring him home. I think if he saw this school, he'd want to stay. He wouldn't want to live in the luxury which we have in the UK. He'd be so happy to experience, but not only to experience, but to really live the life at Nalango and to offer everything he could. I'm certain that if he came right now, then he would never leave. I know definitely that Nalango will never leave my heart, and as soon as I can, I want to come back.
So what we want all of you to do is dream. Think about the biggest thing you could possibly do. Think, even if it seems impossible, what do you want to do? What's the passion that you have that you want to achieve? We want you to have that dream. It won't be easy. It's never easy to achieve your dream. You will fail at many, many times, but failure is not failure if you learn. I've failed many times, but I try to think, why did I fail? And next time I try and do it differently. There's nothing wrong with failing, as long as you learn, so that when you try again, you don't make the same mistake. So please dream. Please think about what it is that you want to become, what you want to achieve, and start trying, because I believe in you, we believe in you. This is why we want Nalango to be here, is because we believe that you can do this.
Are you going to come with me? Hi. My name is Timmy from the UK, and
My Everest is to reduce poverty in Uganda through education. Jam up. Dale.
Too loud. No, wait, go.
We're at the South Magnetic Pole! 25,000 miles, man and natural powered. We need you to help us travel 1 mile closer. That impossible is nothing. Not in a bestiality sense.
Yeah, that was just so funny.
Help! Right, look, let's just let out a bit of energy.
Than the arrival in Punta Arenas?
Sorry?
Do you think it's better than the arrival at Punta Arenas with only dogs?
Dave and Nicky, we need you. Here is Rob, Juicy.
It's a good diet, isn't it?
Yeah, literally, James was like, make sure you eat something.
I heard that one as well. She forgot to say that it was hairy.
What's green blue hairing goes up and down? A gooseberry in the lift. Yeah, she just goes, imagine a gooseberry in the lift.
she was told how to say it. Absolutely.
It goes A then B.
Gosh.
How it goes.
Yeah, I completely think that I'm just a normal person. I don't think we're superhuman in any way, shape or form. I think we've been lucky to have a strong partnership from when we were really young, and we've been bouncing off each other to gain confidence. We're a lot more confident now than we were when we first started planning our trip to Everest, for example. And we've worked really, really hard, and there's no doubt about that. But we've been very, very lucky. And I think that if someone else wanted to do the type of trip that we've done, I think they're really very, very capable of doing it, as long as they believe in it as much as James and I have done. And I think that's the key is belief, and you've got to be wholeheartedly determined. I think there's plenty of people who are as stubborn and as foolish and as strong-minded, or whatever you want to call it, and want to do what they do best, and whether that's join a band or play the violin or do a PhD and whatever it is. I generally believe that everyone in their own field has their own talents, and I think it's a good skill to be able to believe in yourself and have the self-belief to maximise your potential in whatever you're good at. And this is what we do, and we're lucky to have had the support to fulfil our dreams.
We are the Blues. We are the Blues. But 1, 2, 3, go.
We are the Blues, the school of enlightenment, Narangeses, the school of hope. The mission, the school is roaring on. Embrace our motto, we strive for the future. Let us end to war with love and make our school rise and glorious change. We are proud of our founders, teachers and donors of the school, and we are proud of our parents. We shall cherish Rob's mission for the Sami. Come on, everybody come. Let's join hands and work for the school. Embrace good spirit, the source of knowledge, the pride of the land that shows the spirit of love. We are the Blues, the school of enlightenment, Nalangese.